They say the world didn't end in silence. No, it ended in screaming. I was much younger then, maybe 17, standing on the wooden pier of our coastal town, watching the sun bleed into the sea. Back then, I thought the ocean was the safest thing in the world. I didn't know that beneath its calm surface slept a secret older than our nation. I didn't know that a boy, half human, half sea, would one day change everything. But before the miracle came the nightmare. The first explosion shook the earth beneath my feet. I looked toward the distant city and saw fire blooming like a hellflower. People were running, silhouettes in the smoke, stumbling over one another as a swarm of creatures chased them down. I didn't know what they were then. None of us did. We just called them the white-eyed people. Military helicopters roared overhead, engines screaming as they fired into the streets. Soldiers battled through clouds of infected bodies, their rifles lighting up the night. Every burst of gunfire echoed across the water like thunder. The news came hours later, broadcasted by trembling reporters who could barely speak. A virus, something man-made, had escaped. People were dying, then rising again, hungry and violent. Major cities fell one after another. Hospitals turned into slaughterhouses. Supermarkets became war zones. South Korea, our proud, strong nation, was collapsing in real time. But the moment I will never forget was the arrival of the presidential convoy. It sped through the ruined highway like a silver bullet. Armored cars, screaming sirens, and guards clinging to the sides. They carried a single man inside, a scientist with eyes full of fear and brilliance. He wasn't coming to save us. No, he was going to try to save the country. Some say he discovered the truth in a forgotten naval document. Others say an old hermit from the mountains whispered it to him. But however he learned it, the scientist believed one thing. If humanity was going to survive, salvation must come from the sea. And so, soldiers marched into the haunted forests, into a place no maps dared show, a hidden lagoon wrapped in fog and legend. What happened there became classified, forbidden to speak about, erased from every official record. But secrets don't stay buried in small towns like ours. We heard the screams carried by the wind. We saw the ocean glow for the first time. And some of us, the unlucky ones, saw the boy with silver eyes rising from the water, drenched in grief and fury. But his story didn't begin with battle. It began long before, in a laboratory where a green vial shattered, and 4 men returned from the dead. And that, my friend, is where I must start the true tale. The tale of Yon-Ah, the quiet girl who came to our village pregnant with a child that glowed like the sea, and Aaron, the last mermaid boy, the boy whose sacrifice saved us all. So sit down, open your heart and listen. This is not a story I tell often, but it is one the world must never forget. People in my village like to say monsters are born in the dark corners of the earth, caves, trenches, abandoned houses. But they are wrong. The worst monster our nation ever faced was born in a brightly lit laboratory in Seoul, crafted not by nature, but by ambition. I learned that many years later after the chaos had settled like dust on forgotten memories. But back then all I knew were rumors, whispers about a scientist who wanted to play God, Dr. Han Jae-seok. A brilliant man, respected, admired, maybe even feared, the kind of man who spoke softly but carried ideas sharp enough to cut the world open. He worked alone that night, under white fluorescent lights that made his face look pale and hollow. They say his hands didn't even tremble as he mixed the final compound, a swirling emerald fluid so bright it glowed through the glass. He wasn't creating medicine. He was creating a weapon, the kind that ends wars before they begin. a virus that kills in seconds and resurrects in minutes. When he sealed the vial, he smiled like a man who had just unlocked the gates of heaven, unaware he had actually opened the doors of hell. At the time, his wife had called him. I heard this from a soldier who later read the report. She asked why he wasn't home yet, and he told her he would be there soon. His voice sounded warm, hopeful, as if he truly believed life would go on the way it always had. But fate had already rewritten his destiny. Before he left the lab, he tested the virus on a white rat, a harmless creature, small and trembling, sniffing the air with innocent curiosity. The moment the rat inhaled the green vapor, its tiny heart stopped. It dropped dead instantly. Dr. Hahn's smile widened. 5 minutes later, the rat twitched, then jerked, then rose with milky white eyes, smashing itself against the glass, teeth gnashing, desperate to tear into anything alive. In that moment, he should have destroyed the project. Every sane man would have burned the lab and run. But Dr. Hahn wasn't like the rest of us. He believed he had achieved greatness, so he packed the vial into a coated steel briefcase, locked the lab behind him, and drove off into the night. The road leading to his villa was always quiet, lined with pine trees, wrapped in fog, the kind of place lovers go for walks. But on that night, death was waiting. A black SUV swerved in front of him, forcing his car to a stop. 4 criminals jumped out, men with greasy hair, cheap leather jackets, and guns that shook in their hands. "Give us the money!" they shouted. Dr. Hahn had none. He gave them his watch, his wallet, his gold ring, but they weren't satisfied. Their eyes had fallen on the briefcase. They must have thought it contained cash or diamonds. He tried to pull it away, screaming at them not to open it, but a gunshot cracked the air and he fell to the ground. The briefcase slammed onto the asphalt. The vial inside shattered. The green fluid spilled across the pavement, steaming like poison rising from the underworld. The 4 thieves inhaled it before they could even curse. They coughed, collapsed, died. But death, as you already know, was only the beginning. Minutes later, they rose with white eyes and snarling mouths. One ripped out another's throat. Another bit his own arm down to the bone. Then, as if possessed by a single thought, hunger, they ran into the forest toward the nearest town, toward people, toward life, toward us. That was the moment, they say, when the world shifted. No explosion, no warning. Just 4 infected men running into the city like wolves with human faces. And Dr. Hahn? He died on that lonely road, staring up at the sky, never knowing that he had unleashed something far worse than death itself. When I think back on those early days, I wonder if things could have gone differently. If he had told someone, if he had destroyed the formula, if he had chosen family over ambition. But life isn't built on what-ifs. It's built on consequences. And sometimes, consequences come running with wide eyes and broken bones. This is how it began. The birth of the monster that swallowed our nation whole. The day the dead learned how to walk again.